Welcome to the deep dive. Okay, so you've handed us a pretty dense and honestly utterly chaotic stack of source material today. It all points directly to, well, the emotional epicenter that is Genoa City in early October. We're talking the first 10 days. And look, if you were hoping for quiet resolutions or, I don't know, peaceful gardening scenes, you've definitely got the wrong city.
Oh, absolutely. Wrong city, wrong show.
Right. We are plunging straight into a world defined by these really high-stakes corporate maneuvers. It's like a complex chess game, you know? You've got Victor Newman, Jack Abbott, and then poor Michael Baldwin, perpetually conflicted, caught in the middle. And at the same time, we're tracking this romantic fallout that's just so volatile, it feels like it could consume everyone involved.
It's a lot. It really is.
So our mission today, it's basically surgical. We're distilling 2 weeks of pure Young and the Restless action. We're focusing on those huge, really painful shifts in loyalty. We've got the agonizing family conflict, that triangle of Jill versus Billy versus Kane, and then the total, catastrophic unraveling of Kyle and Claire. It's a lot to hold on to, yeah.
Yeah.
But we're going to try and give you the shortcut, sort of, to understanding the whole landscape.
It is definitely a dense read, you're right.
Yeah.
And the immediate thing here, I think, is not just tracking the plot, but really tracking the motivation. You know, who wants what? And maybe more importantly, what are they willing to sacrifice? Or maybe who are they willing to sacrifice to get it? That whole theme of collateral damage, it just runs through every single plot line here. We really need to zero in on that specific event the sources highlight, the one that absolutely infuriates Billy. Because that, I think, is the emotional anchor point for this whole Abbott Chancellor family drama that's unfolding.
Wow. That sounds like, yeah, a lifetime of therapy just crammed into a single week. Let's not wait. We should probably start right where that emotional intensity is just off the charts, with that massive toxic triangle. Kyle, Claire, and Audra. It literally pushes Claire right out of Genoa City. And, well, seemingly into the arms of this new wildcard character.
Yep. Holden Novak.
Right. Holden Novak.
Okay, so this relationship, Kyle and Claire's, it's been on life support for weeks, hasn't it? But the plug gets officially pulled on Wednesday, October 1st. The immediate trigger, the explosive disagreement, it's all about Claire deciding to take a trip to Los Angeles.
Right.
And she's not going for business or anything. She's meeting this guy, Holden Novak, for what she says is just, innocent sightseeing.
And Kyle's reaction is, well, it's what we probably call a textbook disaster, right? He immediately goes into this possessive spiral, issues this frantic warning. He actually tells Claire that Holden is nothing more than a playboy, and the whole trick, he says, is just a trap, like a thinly veiled trap.
Yeah, and the sources really convey Kyle's position as, like, pure panic. But Claire, she reads it as just pure arrogance, which makes her comeback incredibly sharp. She just dismisses his concern outright, flat out tells him, none of your business. But then she escalates, calls him egotistical, points out how audacious it is for him to think her life choices, her plans, even a spontaneous trip to L.A. somehow revolve entirely around him or, like, needing his approval.
You know, I actually found the reason Claire gives for leaving, that was maybe the most insightful part of this whole thing. She's really articulating this deep need for, like, psychological autonomy. She explains her life has been, and these are her words, very strange, characterized by these violent, non-consensual shifts. First, controlled and isolated by Jordan Howard, remember that whole nightmare. And now she feels like she's subjected to this overwhelming, almost suffocating exposure of Newman privilege. She just needs to find her own definition of normal.
Exactly. That's the core of it.
And Kyle's attempt to pull her back in when he asks, why not figure it out with me? It just completely misses the point, doesn't it? Like, in her mind, he's part of that suffocating structure she needs to escape from right now.
Precisely. His question, which I guess he intended to sound supportive, just comes across as another demand for control, basically. So Claire uses this moment, really, to deliver the final verdict on them. She reminds him, again, that the trust was broken when he kissed Audra, and then lied about it. That betrayal, she says, is what broke them. Not her suddenly wanting space. She needs to figure things out on her own terms, and his desperation is just actively hindering that process. It's pushing her away faster.
But Kyle just refuses to lose gracefully, does he? He launches into this incredibly toxic defense mechanism, starts deflecting blame. He points out that this new guy, Holden Novak, has his own complicated history with Audra. He's basically arguing, well, if I'm poisoned, so is your new interest. It's just,
And that's projection 101, isn't it? Just transparent. He's trying to taint her independence by referencing his own mess-up. It just fuels the argument, moves really quickly into outright insults. Claire calls him jealous. She's convinced he's only worried she'll move on, maybe sleep with Holden. And Kyle retaliates with the ultimate judgment, right? He calls Claire blind. Just blind. So she walks out, just defeated by the nastiness of it all, saying Kyle caused so much damage today, and that's the end. For now, anyway.
Wow. And then, just when you think it's over, the audience we didn't know was there reveals herself, Audra, the classic Genoa City eavesdropper.
Right, she waits until Claire's gone. Kyle's mid-ran, probably pacing, and then reveals she heard the entire excruciating argument. Kyle's, of course, just disgusted, tells her flat out, go away. But Audra, she recognizes this moment as a clear win for her in her ongoing twisted power game.
Oh, and she doesn't hold back at all. Immediately starts taunting Kyle, calls Claire Psycho Claire for ending things, reduces Kyle to a brat. And when Kyle predictably blames her for the whole breakdown, the kiss, the lie, the current agony, Audra just refuses to take any ownership. Hits back with that cold instruction, stop blaming me.
Yeah, and this is a really critical psychological moment for Audra, I think. She knows she's toxic, right? But she absolutely refuses to be held accountable for how others react to her toxicity. So she immediately shifts the conversation to Holden. Validates Kyle's fear, actually. Oh. Confirms Holden is very handsome and has apparently cast a spell on Claire. Kyle responds by calling Audra poison, which honestly she probably takes as a compliment.
Oh, totally. She leans right into it, confirms the pure transactional nature of their brief affair. She admits all they shared was hate sex, a phrase Kyle rightly calls disgusting. But to Audra, the emotional cost, irrelevant. The only thing that matters is the outcome. So she claims the ultimate win because Kyle and Claire have split. It's chilling, really. The whole sequence ends with Kyle just utterly defeated, but also energized by pure spite, promising payback, this rivalry. Far from over. It's just intensified.
Yeah, definitely escalated. The immediate aftermath is pretty somber, though. It sets up the next act. Claire's seen crying at the coffee shop, processing the devastation of that nasty fight before she actually leaves town.
Okay, so let's look ahead then. What are the immediate implications for that second week we're covering, October 6th through the 10th? Because Claire's gone now, right? And she seems extremely vulnerable.
Exactly. That emotional breakdown has made her highly susceptible to Holden Novak. She's looking for normalcy, like you said. And Holden, who apparently has a big crush on her, according to the sources, well, he's there, offering attention without all the Newman family baggage. However, Audra's assessment that Holden is a wild card that suggests he's unpredictable. Probably not the safe harbor Claire desperately needs right now. So her vulnerability, that's the hook for that storyline going forward.
And back in Genoa City, the toxicity just continues to spiral. Kyle and Audra are apparently set to be at each other's throats even more.
Yeah, and this is driven in part by Audra's own fresh rejection. Nate Hastings is apparently done with her. That's an important side note we should touch on later. But that rejection, it just magnifies Audra's need to win against someone. And Kyle, he's the nearest, easiest target. So their conflict now, it's less about romantic jealousy, I think, and more about just who can inflict the most emotional damage on the other. It's ugly.
Yeah, the stage is definitely set for a toxic, messy confrontation between Kyle and Audra, while Claire's off trying to figure out if she can trust a playboy who, ironically, has a history with the very person who ruined her relationship.
Yeah, that's high drama. Okay.
Yeah, okay, so that was the emotional collapse. Now we need to shift gears entirely to the high-stakes, pretty ruthless corporate maneuvering, where the emotional casualties this time seem to be Michael Baldwin and his marriage to Lauren. This is where Victor Newman and Jack Abbott, those most unlikely of allies, start building their new plan.
Right, and this plot kicks off with a classic moment of, surveillance and interception. Michael Baldwin corners Victor and Jack right after they meet, and he wastes absolutely no time grilling them about what they were discussing. He's walking a very, very thin tightrope here, and you can tell he knows it.
Jack's the one who confirms the baseline truth, right? He says they are allies, but true to form, Victor is non-committal. The sources say he's notably vague, maintaining that distance, even in a temporary partnership like this. He just can't allow even Jack to think he's fully reliant on him.
And that vagueness, it's key to understanding Victor's strategy, always. He always needs an exit ramp, doesn't he? But Michael, see, he's trapped in Kane Ashby's orbit. He needs to establish trust with Kane. So he desperately pleads with Victor and Jack for specific information, something tangible he can take back to Kane to prove his loyalty, and crucially, to get back into Kane's good graces. Michael's clearly worried, maybe for his safety, maybe just his standing with Kane. And this desperation, well, it makes him the perfect tool for Victor and Jack.
Oh, they recognize that utility instantly. Jack agrees right away that Michael should be their inside man. which is a significant escalation, isn't it? From just exchanging info to full-blown corporate espionage, involving a lawyer who has this very public relationship with the Newman family.
The stakes are huge, not just corporately, but personally. And that's how Jack ensures Victor stays engaged, I think. Jack outlines the precise threat. Kane isn't just targeting Jabad. The plan seems designed to hurt Summer Newman and Nick Newman, Victor's grandson, if Kane succeeds in destabilizing both Jabad and Marchetti. By making the corporate threat a direct attack on the younger generation of Newmans, well, Jack secures Victor's full attention. Smart move.
Okay, so we have the alliance solidified, the inside man recruited, and then the cavalry arrives. Jack mentions Jill Abbott is on her way, and he actually hopes she can shut down Kane.
Yeah, Jill's arrival is pivotal here, but Victor, ever the tactician, views it purely strategically. He agrees Jill's presence will make Kane vulnerable. I mean, Kane is her son, she has leverage, but Victor insists on waiting. He wants to see what Jill actually does before he fully commits his own resources or, his reputation to Jack's plan. This sort of tactical waiting period really highlights Victor's supreme reluctance to trust any outcome he hasn't personally engineered.
What's fascinating, though, is the enormous risk this places on Michael. I mean, if Victor decides halfway through that the odds aren't good, or that he just doesn't need Jack anymore, Michael, the inside man, is left completely exposed. To Kane's unpredictable, potentially ruthless wrath, his need to get into Kane's good graces is being completely exploited by two powerful men who have, let's be honest, no actual loyalty to him.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And this exploitation has this massive ripple effect right into Michael's home life, which is where Lauren Fenmore comes in. Lauren is highly suspicious, and she bypasses Michael entirely, goes straight to Nikki Newman for confirmation.
Yeah, Lauren asks Nikki point blank, is Michael working with Kane because of Victor? She suspects Michael's being coerced or manipulated into the spy role by the Newmans. Nikki, who, let's face it, always tries to protect Victor, initially denies knowing anything, but she finds the idea plausible. She knows her husband too well.
And this segment, it gives us this brilliant commentary on the long-term cost of being close to Victor, especially for the women in his life. Lauren immediately launches into her grievance. Victor treats Michael like garbage. And Nikki's defense, it's perhaps the most telling line of all. She defends Victor by saying, well, that's just how he treats all men.
Yes.
Including his own sons.
That is the ultimate act of normalization, isn't it? Just,
Okay.
yeah, wow. Lauren sees it immediately, calls Nikki a primary enabler, which is harsh, maybe, but sounds accurate. Lauren reminds Nikki of Michael's history. He previously quit his job specifically because Victor tried to destroy Jack. She highlights the cyclical nature of Victor's manipulation, suggesting Nikki has normalized it so much that she allows it to repeatedly destroy other people's lives.
And Lauren makes it crystal clear she is done being a bystander. She says she's at her limit, utterly sick of Michael running around after Victor. This isn't just a threat to their marriage. It feels like an existential threat to Michael's professional integrity, too. So Lauren demands that Nikki, as Victor's wife, use her access to find out, to confirm if Michael is back in cahoots with Victor.
And the urgency is magnified because both women seem to agree that Kane's threats are probably real. This isn't just bluster. So Nikki reluctantly follows through. She goes to Victor's office. Victor is, as we noted, playing his cards very close. He confirms Jill's arriving, confirms Jack just left, validating the setup. But when Nikki mentions Michael and Kane, Victor immediately plays dumb.
Classic deflection. He uses that tactic, sidestepping every direct question Nikki asks about working with Michael, offers misdirection, vague reassurances, but never a straight answer.
And here is that heartbreaking, frustrating pattern we see again and again, right? Nikki actually calls Victor out for the evasion. She knows she's lying. But the source material is very specific here, noting that, as usual, she doesn't press him. She accepts the non-answer and leaves. Victor wins the information war without having to commit to a single truth. He keeps his plausible deniability completely intact.
And the second Nikki is out the door, the truth comes out. Victor calls Jack, confirms the plan is on track. The spy operation is a go. Nikki, meanwhile, calls Lauren, confirming her deepest fears. She agrees, yeah, Victor and Michael are definitely up to something. The domestic consequences, instantaneous. Lauren confronts Michael about the espionage, and the sheer betrayal of trust forces her to walk out. That partnership, maybe their marriage, it's the first real casualty of this new Victor-Jack alliance.
Wow. Okay, before we move on to Jill, there's a crucial, if maybe temporary, departure we need to note. Nick and Sharon are heading to LA. Nick drops by Newman Media, Adam and Chelsea's offices to announce they're taking a few weeks to help their son, Noah Newman, with a new club venture.
Yeah, this is a significant logistical shift. And the sources confirm this timing lined up with the new actor for Noah, Lucas Adams, starting in the role. So store mechanics there. But Nick's departure, it's also kind of a geopolitical event within the Newman sphere, isn't it? He might use this moment to tell Adam about the Victor-Jack alliance, which will certainly make Adam wary, very wary.
Oh, absolutely. Adam will undoubtedly worry about what this so-called truce means for his own corporate standing. Anytime Victor partners with an outsider, the internal Newman power dynamic shifts, right? And Adam
Yeah.
is usually the one left out in the cold. It keeps him destabilized, which is likely exactly how Victor wants him, always off balance.
Okay, let's shift now to what feels like the epicenter of the family drama, segment 3. This centers entirely on Jill Evans' arrival and the incredible emotional fallout it creates, specifically for her son, Billy. This is the source of that infuriating title we mentioned earlier.
Right. Jill arrives back in Genoa City on Thursday, October 2nd, and she comes with this clear sort of two-part mission: stop the corporate disaster that is Kane, and somehow mend the emotional rift with Billy. Seems simple enough on paper, right?
Huh. If only. But her approach, which she probably intends to be helpful, is immediately characterized by the very managerial style that drives Billy absolutely crazy. And this is evidenced by her surprising first move. Jill plans a face-to-face meeting with Sally Spectra to discuss funding Abbott-Com.
Okay, this is just, wow, a masterclass in well-intentioned parental interference, maybe? Why Sally Spectra? I guess because Jill sees Sally as a shrewd operator, a successful businesswoman. Jill views this as a necessary alliance to help her struggling son Billy and his pet project Abbott-Com. But critically, she's doing this without consulting Billy, and she's using Sally, someone Billy has an extremely complicated professional and personal history with.
Exactly. To Jill, it's probably just corporate damage control, resource allocation, smart business. But to Billy, this move will almost certainly feel like a profound act of betrayal, a total lack of faith. Jill's basically treating him like a problem to be solved with outside resources rather than a mature professional she can trust. Her thought process seems to be, if I can get Sally to work with Billy, that'll force stability, but it just completely negates Billy's agency.
And the painful consequences of that dynamic, they're felt almost immediately. On Friday, October 3rd, when Billy has his reunion with Jill, the sources describe his conversation as very upsetting, forcing Billy to confront painful truths, tearing apart some scars. This isn't just an argument, is it? It's like an excavation of decades of family trauma.
And here it is, the core grievance, the precise source of the fury the sources highlighted. Billy feels that Jill always excuses anything Kane does, that she maintains this belief that Kane can basically do no wrong. Conversely, he feels she thinks Billy, does everything wrong. It's this entrenched mother-son dynamic rooted in what feels like chronic favoritism. Billy's pain here, it's not just about this specific crisis, it's about a lifetime of feeling inadequate, judged, compared to his seemingly favored brother.
Yeah, and if Jill even mentions the Sally conversation during this reunion, it will confirm everything for Billy, instantly. It just proves she doesn't trust him to manage his own company, Abbott-Com, and instead she chooses to manage him through proxies, reinforcing that whole you do everything wrong narrative he's been battling his entire life. It's devastating.
So as we look ahead to that next week, October 6th to the 10th, Jill is basically trying to perform this impossible balancing act. She's attempting to make things right with Billy through this kind of managerial damage control, while simultaneously having to stop Kane from targeting the whole town with his corporate schemes. Good luck with that.
And to deal with Kane, Jill apparently resorts to her standard, familiar playbook. The sources suggest she may tell Kane he needs to cut Phyllis Summers loose.
Right. This is a crucial historical callback. We have seen this exact play before. Jill previously insisted Billy fire Phyllis from Chancellor. She viewed Phyllis as a destructive distraction, or worse, just a complication to the family business. It really demonstrates that Jill's strategy for cleaning up her son's messes is always the same. Eliminate the perceived external influence, whether it's Phyllis or in Billy's past, gambling, or maybe even Sally now.
But Kane is a different animal than Billy, isn't he? He's unlikely to comply easily. The sources suggest Phyllis won't go away. And the kicker, she seems to have developed a crush on him. That means Phyllis has a stronger, more personal hold on Kane than Jill might realize, making her much harder to just excise from the corporate structure.
And this is where Jill's good intentions become potentially highly dangerous. Despite her decades of corporate experience, the sources actually warn that Jill may wind up manipulated by Kane. Kane is often underestimated, I think, because of his volatility. But he can be shrewd when he wants to be.
So if Jill is manipulated, if she ends up siding with Kane, or fails to stop his schemes, or if her efforts with Sally just completely backfired, it completely invalidates any attempt she's making to reconcile with Billy, doesn't it? Billy's struggling to heal, to redefine himself. And his mother's actions, whether they're manipulative or just naive, will only deepen his conviction that she will forever dismiss his pain and prioritize protecting Kane. That family wound remains not just open, but actively festering. Still.
That's the critical tension in this whole period, I think. Billy's psychological healing seems entirely dependent on his mother changing a pattern that, frankly, she seems utterly incapable of breaking. It's tragic, really.
Okay, before we try to synthesize all this drama, let's quickly tie up the remaining loose ends floating around Genoa City during this really high-intensity 2-week period.
Right. First, we see kind of a new alliance forming, or at least a shared understanding, maybe, forged through mutual resentment. On Thursday, October 2nd, Amy and Lily realize they share some common ground, and that common ground is twofold. They both apparently miss Damien, whoever he is in this context, and perhaps more importantly, they both despise Kane. This is quiet, but it's a significant formation of an anti-Kane faction that could definitely become relevant down the line.
Interesting. Speaking of despised people, Audra takes a massive personal hit, which seems to immediately fuel her continued toxicity with Kyle. She tries desperately, apparently, to convince Nate Hastings to take her back.
But Nate is firm. The sources say he is absolutely done with her, won't be swayed. And this rejection is actually vital for understanding Audra's psychological state right now. She's now been rejected by two major romantic interests, Nate and Kyle. So her drive to win in the professional sphere, the emotional sphere, whatever, it's magnified because she feels like she's lost everything else. She desperately needs a victory, any victory, and that makes her even more reckless, I think.
Yeah, that makes sense. And finally, the high-stakes corporate maneuvering we spent all that time detailing back in segment 2. It officially solidifies. Jack and Victor agree on their new plan of attack.
This confirmation means that temporary alliance is fully established, it's operational. Victor has committed, Jack has his leverage, the grandkids. And Michael Baldwin is officially installed as the inside man against Kane. The corporate war room is set. And the first casualty, Lauren and Michael's marriage, has already fallen. It sets up a very dangerous second half of the month. Hashtag tag outro.
So let's try and synthesize this chaos for you. We've covered 3 massive, really high-impact collisions that define these first 2 weeks of October. We had the dramatic emotional failure of Kyle and Claire, driven by jealousy, Audra's manipulation, and maybe just bad timing. We tracked the high-stakes, domestic-destroying corporate espionage involving Michael, Victor, and Jack, that unlikely trio. And we explored the deeply painful return of Jill, which has just exacerbated a lifetime of favoritism, pushing Billy to the point of absolute fury regarding his place in that family.
Yeah, and the common denominator, it seems, in nearly every single one of these plots is, well, a failure of communication, right? A reliance on secrets. And, most crucially, the enabling of destructive behavior. People are choosing managerial control, like Jill seems to be doing, or maybe self-preservation, like Nikki, over genuine accountability.
And that failure of accountability, it brings us directly to our final provocative thought for you to consider as you process this deep dive. Let's focus one last time on that dynamic between Victor, Nikki, and Lauren back in segment 2. We noted that Nikki, even though she calls Victor out on his manipulative use of Michael, still refuses to press him for the truth. She walks away, accepting his evasiveness. Again.
And this isn't just passive behavior, is it? It's an active choice she's making. Nikki's refusal to hold Victor accountable. Choosing peace, maybe? Acceptance over a potentially catastrophic confrontation. That refusal functions as the essential lubrication for Victor's entire machine. She loves him no matter what, okay. But that unconditional acceptance is arguably what allows him to put people like Michael Baldwin in grave danger, threatening his career, his marriage to Lauren.
So it raises this fundamental question, doesn't it, about the whole ecosystem of manipulation. We've seen that Michael and Lauren are paying the immediate price for Victor's manipulation, which is enabled by Nikki. If the people closest to a powerful manipulator, the ones who know exactly how he operates, choose to prioritize, say, domestic harmony or personal acceptance over demanding real, uncomfortable accountability, who then bears the most responsibility for the continued destructive cycles?
Yeah, is it the primary actor, Victor, for initiating the schemes? Or is it those who consistently enable him, like Nikki? People who prioritize acceptance of his flaws, and in doing that, grant him the necessary freedom, the space, to perpetuate his destructive pattern. When acceptance facilitates destruction, where does moral responsibility truly lie? That's the question.
A tough ethical question indeed for a chaotic couple of weeks in Genoa City. Definitely something worth mulling over. That's all the time we have for this deep dive into the complex world of shifting loyalties and deep-seated family pain. We'll see you next time.